Thanks for staying with us as we continue to bring you some developments with the Nigerian elections, which voting in the morning started to elect a successor to President Muhammadu Buhari, with many hoping the next leader will steer Africa's most populous nation and biggest economy on a new course after years of worsening hardship and violence.
Nigerians started voting on Saturday to elect a new president. Many hope the next leader will steer Africa's biggest economy on a new course after years of worsening violence and hardship. Polling stations are scheduled to open at 8:30 a.m. local time, but Reuters reports that locations across the country saw a mixed picture. Delays of several hours in some places were seen, while voting got underway more swiftly at others. Several election officials said they had been delayed by the late arrival of vehicles to transport them and the election materials. Opposition presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar was able to vote, surrounded by a chaotic scrum of media and supporters. Another presidential candidate, former Lagos Governor Bola Tinubu, was also seen voting in Lagos. The candidate for Labour Party, Peter Obi, who is mounting a challenge against the country's two main rivals for president, also cast his vote in the southeast state of Anambra. President Muhammadu Buhari is stepping down after serving the maximum 8 years allowed by the constitution. He failed to deliver on his pledge to bring back order and security across Nigeria. More than 93 million people are registered to vote for the next president and members of the National Assembly. The run-up to the vote was marred by violence, a pattern seen in previous Nigerian elections. For the election, land borders were closed, soldiers were patrolling the streets in several states, and movements were restricted in an effort by the authorities to boost security. Vote counting will begin as soon as polls close, and results will be posted outside polling stations. The final tally from the 36 states and federal capital Abuja is expected within 5 days of voting.
Over 93.4 million registered voters will determine who gets to be the next president of Nigeria. Now, research by Afrobarometer reveals that citizens who disapprove of the country's direction and economic conditions are more likely to support democratic elections. For more on this, we're joined by Afrobarometer Nigeria manager Rafael Mbaegbu. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika. We know that you have been doing a lot of work ahead of elections as Afrobarometer, just sort of gauging the sentiment around voters' perspective and the best way to conduct elections. What did you find in the lead up to these elections?
Okay, so thank you very much. As you can see, the first look rough. We've been on the queue since morning trying to cast our vote. Yes, and as you are much aware, Afrobarometer in Nigeria has been conducting various kinds of survey in Nigeria on democracy, governance, and issues that affect the country. So for Afrobarometer, NOI Post is a national partner for Afrobarometer in Nigeria. We conduct over 8 different rounds of surveys in Nigeria, and the latest analysis from the latest survey conducted show that Nigerians are willing to Nigerians support democracy as the best option, and of course here we have that has been demonstrated today. Many citizens came out in mass to vote candidates of their choice. So that has been demonstrated today. As I speak to you now, in some places they are counting those who, in some places where people started late in the afternoon, I believe votes is still going on there.
We know that this is an election dubbed the most competitive since the end of military rule in 1999. Nigerian voters casting their ballots in this tightly contested race among 3 presidential front runners. We know that most citizens have said that they believe elections don't work well to ensure that voters' views are reflected. How did you, what sort of sentiments did you get as you gathered that information?
So before now, many don't even trust the institutions, the government, many don't trust. That has been shown in different kinds of different surveys conducted by Afrobarometer, and it has also been validated by other national surveys conducted by organizations and, of course, international organizations. Many people came out today to vote, and before now, I think this is the 7th general elections conducted in the country, and it has been either one-party system or two-party system. But at this point, because of the hardship that has been experienced by everybody, regardless of party line, the hardship economic conditions that got worsened in the last couple of months, in fact, in the last 1 year, and then now we have another party that came up strongly, making it three different political parties. So now people are more willing to vote. They have more options because options have been challenged. People tend to be streamlined to just two parties. So outside the two parties, you struggle to get, candidate. But now we have another Labour Party that just came on board, and people, because of the individual. So what I'm trying to say here is that Nigerians generally want to vote individuals. They're no longer interested in the party name. So you could see somebody voting for the president, a particular party, then for the Senate, they are voting a different party, then for House of Representatives, they are voting different parties. So right now, people have come out, the youth has also come out in mass today. It was demonstrated hugely today. Many of the electorate that we observed, we saw across because we'll be following with the civil society organization situation room. Many of the electorate today are young people. So I believe the younger generation have much to say in deciding what happens in this election.
What's also been interesting to observe is that ahead of today's polls, we know that customers stocked up on food and essentials because they're uncertain of the outcome of these elections. Looking and gauging the political climate at the moment and, of course, in the build-up to these elections, what did you find in terms of trust, in terms of sentiment, and also looking at factors that could affect the credibility of this outcome?
Sorry, the line is breaking.
Okay, so I'm just talking about what's happened in terms of observation ahead of today's polls. We know that customers have been stocking up on food and essentials because they're uncertain of the outcome of the election. So engaging the political climate and also in the build-up, what views have been expressed around fears, perhaps violence breaking out? I mean, I had a guest earlier on who was telling me that the percentage and the ratio of the violence that has occurred is very minimal compared to the bigger scheme of the millions of Nigerians that are voting today.
So if you have been following the Nigerian politics and what has been happening in the country within the last month, you notice that there have been a lot of economic issues. So there is a new currency note, and the government decided to cut the amount of currency that go into the market. So and this happened at a very I don't want to say it's a very wrong time, but in weeks leading up to the election. So there are a lot of panic buy. People want to buy stock food just to ensure that they have something to stay. And again, previous elections have been marred with a lot of irregularities. You have cases of vote buying. You have cases of ballot box snatching, overvoting, and underage voting. A lot of things that have happened in the past. So and there is fear that losers may be violent, may call their supporters to go into violence. But with the support from EU and the civil society organizations in Nigeria, they have the key electoral candidates have signed an accord, no violent accord. So they signed during the campaign, and of course they signed a few days ago before the election. So and again, that the issue of trust. Afrobarometer survey show that only 23% of Nigerians trust the Independent National Electoral Commission, which is INEC, the electoral umpire. So the level of trust Nigerians have made them to feel that, that something may happen in the course of the election. Those who feel the aggrieved ones may call their supporters to go into it. But again, one thing interesting here is that the president is going, and this is the first time he's voting as an electorate since 2003, exactly 20 years today. Before now, he has been a candidate. So he's been a candidate since 2003. So today he's voting as an electorate. So there's less interest in the election, and he came out clearly to say that he's not supporting any political party, even though he's a party person. But then Nigerians are given assurance that Nigerians should go and vote a candidate of their choice. And again, the INEC. One other thing that I believe, if this survey is conducted today, the number of those who may trust the INEC may go up, because last year, 2022, Nigeria introduced a new electoral law, which made it possible for INEC to introduce technological innovations. So right now, the cases of ballot box snatching, overvoting will be reduced. So confidence level for the electoral umpire may definitely go up if this question is asked today.
We know that Nigerians are very frustrated by the government because of the cash and fuel shortages and the highest inflation rate in nearly 2 decades. When it comes to, you've spoken a lot about the candidates, the personality, as opposed to just the party. What are Nigerians hoping for? What hopes do they have in the new leader, especially looking at the broken promises under Buhari, also looking at the issue of Boko Haram? That is also still a pressing issue amongst Nigerians.
So just looking at the Afrobarometer data shows that more Nigerians support multi-party system, and that has been demonstrated in this year. So this is the first time, although we have 18 candidates running for the presidency, but it appears that only 4 are the front runners. So they give people the opportunity to even make more choices. So the economy is bad. People are hungry. They are very optimistic to see the outcome of this election. And like I said earlier, the youth, this is the first time we are experiencing youths, coming out. For looking at the statistics you read earlier, over 90 million people registered for this election. But about 87 million, collected their PVCs to vote. So with the huge turnout we have experienced today, we could see that the youth have come out. And again, with what happened in 2020 during the NSAS protest, Nigeria that was led by Nigerian youth because of police brutality. So one thing that came out clearly to them then by political class was that if you want to join politics, then you should. So they've been given opportunity to join politics. So stop organizing, that they should organize. So the organizing has actually come out today, and the youth have options. So multiple options to elect leaders of their choice. So generally, the expectations are high, and the security is. Although there are some places, locations that experienced some security challenge, but generally, the election has been peaceful, and the people are happy.
Very well. Thank you so much for bringing us some perspective there. Rafael Mbaegbu, Afrobarometer Manager in Nigeria, speaking about the elections currently underway. Of course, a lot at stake when it comes to the elections in Nigeria.